Any further comment on that, Kevin?
No, just one clarification. Maybe Darren can help me. If we don't necessarily agree with a change that's made to the procedures that are listed, what is the commission's options or avenues to voice concerns?
Well,
this is
Yeah.
a resolution that's before you. Obviously, because of the exigent circumstances that we're facing, we followed these procedures without yet having the resolution adopted, and the resolution is set up in that fashion. If collectively the majority of the commission doesn't like these procedures, then they can vote to do something different and come up with whatever you all want.
the one comment I want to make on that too, Darren, is that obviously under the resolution, I'm vested with some authority to make changes as circumstances change, so to speak. So to the extent that before a meeting, because of something, we make a procedural change, that the commission, I guess the question becomes, is can the commission do it at that meeting when the public's been told of the procedural change, or would it have to wait to the succeeding meeting?
You know, a lot of this stuff is novel, and we're going to have to, poor choice of words, and we're going to have to play some of it by ear, but they could do it at that meeting. That was really Section 3 with authorizing the mayor was really my suggestion, because as we work through this with staff, so much of this is technical in nature. We were working through how's this going to work, how's that going to work, and even as I drafted the resolution, I had to call Michael 4 or 5 times to go over various elements. And so I didn't want to be stuck in a situation where if we knew we needed to change something for a technological reason or what have you, didn't want to have to not be able to implement it and just have the mayor, you know, do it and change the Exhibit A. But if that happens, I don't know that we're going to need to, but if that happens, then we just address it at the next meeting, regardless of what we've told the public.
All right, any further discussion on this? All right, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll now move to item number 2, resolution dealing with certain deadlines under the statutes. Michael?
No comment, Mr. Mayor. I think, this is just a procedural thing.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, back to the prior item with the delay and everything. I'm not sure if Commissioner Reed voted for the motion or against it.
In favor.
In favor of the motion. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Darren, did you have a comment?
I was just going to comment briefly on the next item. The statute requires, and it was amended in 2019, it was one of these, I'll call it an anti-local government bill, that gave us strict time constraints within which we have to act on land development orders and applications for land development permits. The statute recognizes that there may be emergent situations, but it's not very clearly written. And technically, the way the statute is written, at least an argument can be made that it requires not just the city, but also the applicant to agree to an extension beyond the deadlines. Given the current situation, it did not seem prudent to have to rely on asking each of the applicants to agree. Some cities that have 1 or 2 things pending are asking. Other cities that have large numbers like Daytona Beach are, just continuing the things. And so in any event, I just, in an abundance of caution, I wanted to have a resolution adopted laying out our rationale for delaying them and potentially being beyond the deadlines. so that there was no question that we were aware we were doing it and setting forth the legislative rationale for doing so. That was all.
Anyone have a question to Darren? All right, is there a motion to adopt?
Move approval, Commissioner Paiva.
Is there a
Second, Cloudman.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll now move to the consent agenda. We have items 1 through 9. Does any member of the commission wish to remove an item from the agenda? I'll start with Commissioner Paiva. Do you have any items to remove?
No, I do not have any to remove. I did just want to comment that it does point out of how interconnected we are and dependent on each other with items with FEMA, FDOT, Department of Corrections, Volusia County. So I do not have any to pull, but it's nice to see that it takes a lot of us to make everything work so smoothly. Just like at the time we're going through right now, it takes a lot of hands on deck to make everything smoothly.
Okay, Jessica, any item you want to remove?
No,
I'm sorry.
no, I do not need to remove any.
Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner Cloudman,
No, thank you.
Commissioner Reed,
6 and 8.
all right. Is there then a motion to approve? Charles, as I understood it, you were just making comment on them. You didn't want any removed, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there then a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of item 6 and item 8?
Move approval, Commissioner Paiva.
Second, Kevin.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll now move to item 6. I guess because we're in the, what I'd like to do is make sure that there were no public comments on any item on the consent agenda. Julie seems to not have gotten any, and our moderator says there's no public present to have commented on those. All right, item number 6.
Yeah,
Mr. Reed.
just being a change order. See a lot of the items were design changes. Just curious if there are additional change orders down the pike that we're looking at and what they might be.
Michael or
Yeah, Keith Rieger's on the phone. We talked about that earlier today, so I'll let Keith go ahead and answer. Keith, can you hear us? Do we have Keith? I know he was on the list. But effectively, since we're waiting on Keith and talking to him, there probably will be one more additional change order, but it'd be minor. He's thinking $20,000 or less. There's still a little bit more than $30,000 left in contingency, so the project still is within budget.
okay, Keith, I understand you're now available. Are you have comment?
Yes, I would echo what Michael said. We have tried to pick up all the major changes that we're aware of to date. The building is probably about 85 to 90% complete.
And then
Hopefully you can hear me. We do anticipate some additional changes that will be necessary for the end, but I don't think they're going to be they're not going to be of the same magnitude as the changes before you tonight. Did you hear that?
Any further questions?
No, with that, I motion to approve item 6.
Is there a
Seconded,
second?
Paiva. Seconded.
All right, we have a motion and second. I'm having a technical problem. Greg's trying to help me. Anyway, we motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to item 8.
This is more of a curiosity. One, I think that the software is exactly what some have been asking for. So kudos to that. Was just curious if there was any other software suites that potentially are out there that might fit a need to the city. And then also, what is the timeline? I know it's the months are spread out, but of how long it takes to implement. What date for a go live were we looking at for this portal?
So I do believe that we have Rick Rubiscus on. The timeline is 4 months from the time that they start. Rick, I think, can answer the question on when they're able to start. And in terms of other software that's available, I don't know if he's had conversations, with Stellar or others, if there are other software packages, but he can certainly answer that question if he's had those conversations. So Rick, are you on with us?
I hope I am. Yes, okay, I am. Wow. At this point, we do not anticipate adding any additional add-ons to the software, though as the software in this whole electronic permitting process evolves and we find other avenues to add to customer service, there may be in the future that we do add on additional modules that will assist the customer service base and also make things easier for staff. And Michael is correct. We're looking at about a 4-month implementation process. And I believe that Carasoft will be able to start work within the very near future to implement.
Any further question? Is there a motion?
A motion to approve, Kevin Reed.
Seconded, Padva.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, on petitions and requests from the public present, do you have any speaker cards or any emails from any citizen as was outlined in the procedure to read into the record?
No, sir, I don't believe we do. Our runner is checking the email box for me, and she's advised that there's nothing in the email.
And to our moderator, there is no public comment that's been provided to you by email. Q.
I have people who have joined the meeting.
No.
I have people who have joined the meeting, but I don't know if they're here.
There's no one here now, though. Okay. All right, that concludes petitions and requests from the public present. We'll now move to city manager's report.
Nothing to report, sir.
City attorney,
No, sir.
city clerk,
Nothing other than to say that the clerk's office is working its way through some personnel shortages, but we're keeping our head above water so far.
all right, there's 2 things I'd like to raise for the commission's consideration before we go to individual commission comments. As everybody knows, we've got, a lot of unemployed people that are out of work as a result of the virus, and, staff has been doing a great job of trying to be creative and to find ways that, we can help citizens without, jeopardizing the overall financial well-being of the city, so to speak. And so the 2 things that I wanted to have some discussion about First of all, on the issue of rents that we receive, we have two situations. One, rents at the DeLand Airport, which is a separate enterprise fund, and then, rents of the Fish Building and rentals within the City Hall building itself. At this point, I think, Michael, it's accurate to say that we have 3 requests for some rent relief from tenants at this point. Is that generally correct?
Yeah, as I understand it, as of today, the museum has asked for some relief. The Chamber of Commerce and the airport restaurant asked today. And they're out.
And so what I would like for the commission to consider and to have the commission, authorize staff to develop not a forgiveness program, but a forbearance program, for example, in the airport, because it's a separate enterprise fund and that's where the revenue comes from. This is only by way of example that staff could, defer 3 months worth of rental for the next 3 months, as long as that rent is repaid over the next 6 months. And I think both as to the airport and to the other rentals that I mentioned, I think we could have a different program, for those rents. And thinking on a fast forward basis, ultimately, I think we may face multiple tenants that want really the equivalent of workout situations. And I think by being a little bit proactive, that maybe we can stave off some of that without creating great financial harm. So on that issue, what I would, suggest that the commission consider is that we authorize staff to develop, a rent forbearance program for some limited period of time. In the case of the, well, I guess it could work in both cases, that, that they had to have had some, either they had to close their business as a result of executive orders, or they had to, that their business was substantially curtailed during that period, during the period of time. And I think staff could Greg handed me a note, but anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is be user friendly as we help businesses that, in the case of the airport restaurant, that only can do takeout service. Some of the businesses at the airport that might normally frequent that business are closed. I know we've got a couple of businesses out there, like there's a beauty salon and things of that nature. That's the first one, and I'll open it up for any comment or suggestion on that. We'll start with Commissioner Davis.
I definitely agree with staff being able to look into it for us. In the midst of this crisis, so many businesses are affected by this, and I'm seeing it all over being done. So I definitely think it's important that we support our businesses as well. And those employers and employees want to make sure that they have the support from the city.
And I think all we need to do this evening, if the commission's in accord, is set some parameters. It can't be more than using the airport first, a 3-month, forbearance, and then it needs to be repaid over 6 months. Unfortunately, 3 months would take us to July effectively, and then there'll only be 1 quarter, to quote unquote balance the budget in the airport. So taking them separately, setting those parameters. Charles?
Yeah, I'm okay with the forbearance, but one of my concerns is that obviously every business primarily is affected by this. So my thought in talking to Michael a little bit was more something that would affect everyone in a certain way in an equal manner. So I mean, staff can develop some ideas with that I spoke to Michael about. My concern is just the potential imbalance for, you know, private businesses and ones that are with the city, as well as the fact that we pay the chamber money to provide a service. So then we're giving them a rent discount on a service that we pay for. So I think that one kind of goes two ways for me, but I certainly, you know, trust staff to come up with something that is fair. My only caution is that if we're just doing that for, you know, city run businesses or rentals, that obviously I think private industry may have some feelings, because that money is certainly the public's that they're paying into, but not potentially getting the benefit. So I think the forbearance makes sense, and I think that's fair. I just, you know, want to tell staff to be a bit cautious when things are narrowly crafted versus a broader crafting of some of the breaks, and just like we did with the water and not charging cutoff fees and different things that are broader in appeal. So that's my only concern, but I'm fine moving forward and having staff craft something.
So is it then the consensus of the commission that we ask staff to develop some policy for the airport and some policy for the tenants that are outside the airport? I mean, to your point, Charles, we can't control what a local landlord has a mortgage to pay, and if a business is a tenant, we can't really direct a whole lot of stuff on that, you know.
Well, right, and I understand that. So I'm not asking for, you know, legislative relief that way. We don't have that ability. But my concern is obviously if we give someone forbearance, that's different. That's being a fair landlord. I have no problem with that. I just wanted to caution against, you know, if we waive anything or relieve something that's not possible in private industry, it creates an inequity. So that's really more where my concern was. I didn't have a concern with working with our tenants and being good landlords, but just to have some limits to that. And what you said, I have no disagreement with. Just as people, since me and you have been through the first recession when everyone came and said, well, we shouldn't have to pay anything, we want everything waived, it's just the slippery slope. So that's my only concern going back to other times when we've had economic challenges, just this for a different reason. That's all. But I agree with your point, Bob.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, just you had kind of mentioned it being two separate plans. I prefer staff to just work on one plan, treat everyone equally, even though one is enterprise fund, one isn't. I understand that, but I think simplicity is key in keeping it one plan fair to all. The other side of it is highlighting that any payment is better than no payment. So, you know, maybe an option is a partial payment plan, and not just a full not payment, but as options.
And I think we'd be better served. I mean, because I just like has happened in the 2008 timeframe, as facts change, people, you know, are going to have different needs. How the federal money is going to impact some of these businesses, how quick it's going to come. My main concern is we try to help people get over the hump a little bit, but at the same time, I recognize that somewhat may become forbearance, may become a workout 5 months from now, regardless. Chris, you had a comment?
Yeah, just kind of on the same lines. Like I'd definitely be open to staff working with individuals on a case-by-case basis as they express need. I don't know that I'd want to just give it to everyone at once, whether they need it or not. I just, but would definitely be open to working, having staff work with those that come forward and say that they need some assistance. I mean, I don't know if all of this is going to fall under loss of business insurance in the future for people, or how this will work, but they should. I do like the plan you're talking about of maybe 3 months of forbearance and then having a set time frame of paying it back.
Well, I think there needs to be some form of qualifier, you know, I mean, I maybe I don't disagree with what you said, Chris, you know, but that puts, it kind of puts staff on a individual basis, having to deal with each person as though it's a workout, you know, as opposed to, these are the criteria the commission set, you know, you were not substantially closed, you know, or you didn't have a substantial loss of business, whatever the criteria is, we can't help you without, you're going to have to go to the commission. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that makes sense.
No, it does. I'm just kind of with Charles, with your first example being the restaurant out at the airport. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then when you said the chamber, to be honest, like I had the same reaction of, okay, well, what is the loss of business that they're having that they're not already? I guess,
Well,
I
I
guess
think-
people
I think-
people are up for renewals right now, maybe, you know, that kind of thing.
I think that's the concern they have is that renewals are going to drop off and their income's going to drop off. In the case of the museum, they made a business decision to shut down. Okay. Well, I think we have a general consensus. Michael, do you want to ask any specific questions in that regard?
No, I think what I'm hearing the commission say is you want us to look at a forbearance program. You know, 3 months seems to be the consensus of everyone, and paying it back after that time. Some sort of qualifier, you know, the business either had to shut down or was substantially curtailed by the governor's executive orders. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, the consensus of the commission.
Everybody concur with that? It seems that that's the
Yeah.
case. All right, the second item I wanted to raise in that regard is utility bills. Certainly, I don't believe that we can do what Daytona Beach did. Our monthly revenue from the utility fund is about $1.8 million, and I don't recall the number, but I know we have a lot of capital dollars that have been reserved for future water needs. And I think we've got somewhere around $5 million worth of water and sewer projects scheduled for the, this fiscal year. And so my thought process is that maybe we do something like a 20% reduction, for the next 2 months, which is equivalent of about, according to staff, about $720,000 over that period of time. Again, Brandy told me today that in an average week, they have 70 to 90 no pays, and this week they've had 300. So I think it's going to be a mounting issue that we have to deal with. When Michael and I talked about this a little bit, one suggestion we were going to do with that Michael thought was, on the 20% reduction, we could ask people that really don't need that to contribute to the GoFundMe or help the neighborhood center, to help people that are really struggling. But putting that aside for the moment, my thought was, 20% for 2 months. Those changes would have to be made manually by staff. And it would take at least a week to do it. And Michael in conversation with Darren, said if we were to take any action like this, it would have to be on an emergency ordinance basis. So we couldn't really do anything until the next meeting. If the commission wanted to do that, such a thing, that would give staff a couple of weeks to do the manual stuff, and you know, no system's perfect and there'll be some human error, but I think the bottom line is that we got a lot of people in our community hurting, 6.6 million people nationally for unemployment, and it's a tough time. So Michael, did you want to add anything about anything we talked about, or any more detail and from a staff perspective on doing something of that nature?
Sure. The only thing that you didn't cover is we do have 6 billing cycles. So, you know, it wouldn't be, you know, a rollout on the same lines for everybody at the same time. You know, like right now we're in the first billing cycle of April, and 2 weeks from now we'll be on the 3rd billing cycle. So if we start on the 3rd billing cycle, in 2 months, you'd have to carry through for the 2nd billing cycle in June in order for everybody to get the full 2 months. If that makes sense, what I just said. And I think that was, I think that was it. I think you covered everything else.
Okay, Commissioner Paiva, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I just had a clarification and then a comment. So, since obviously the water bill encompasses 4 things, we are referencing the 20% for the water and sewer. We also have stormwater and we have garbage, or is it 20% off of the whole bill, just for clarification purposes?
In conversation with Michael, I mean, the stormwater fund doesn't have the capital improvement fund. So it's always been a marginal operation, for want of a better word, not any excess money in that fund, as I recall. Michael, is that correct?
That's correct.
And of course, on the waste side, we're really a pass through to WCA, less a small percentage we get for the billing.
Yeah,
so yes, it's only water and sewer.
Okay. Yeah, and so my comment, just that's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify, since a lot of people say water bill, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of people. But that was kind of what I was referencing with my previous comments, that I think that's something that affects everyone, business, individual, regardless of anything. So that is something I would be even more in favor of. And I think your percentages and the timetable make a lot of sense. And like I said, it helps everyone equally, that potentially pays into the taxes and obviously does pay into the utilities. And that's why we have reserves for certain things like this. So I support that and think that's a good idea that helps everyone that's in somewhat the same boat.
Commissioner Davis.
I like the fact that we're considering it. I just simply don't know if 20% will be enough, especially if you are going from about 70 people that will be our normal that's affected to now 300. So I understand what Commissioner Paiva is saying, that treat everyone equal, but not everyone is losing their jobs or being affected by this. So are we going to consider anything for those that are no pay at all, and taking off $20 may not be enough?
Well, for my thought process, I mean, a couple things. Stimulus checks are going to start arriving, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Some people longer. They're going to need that for a variety of things. Daytona Beach did the full boat in water and sewer, and I don't think we can afford to do that. But I think by the same token, we can afford to do something to help. And if it's across the board, you also have to remember, in some cases, the one thing that this does, to Charles's earlier point, our customers sometimes are double payers in the sense they live in the city of DeLand and they own a business in the city of DeLand. So they're paying, two bills. And while, whatever the number is, for some people, it will be a relatively small amount. I think the minimum bill, water and sewer, Michael, is about $60, right?
That's
I
correct.
don't remember that.
It's $58, the average bill without stormwater or garbage.
I mean, that's, 20%, $12. Some people that means a lot. It's a copay on a medical prescription. It's, who knows? But for some people that have bills of, $150, it is,
I understand
it
what you're
is something.
saying. I still don't think it will be enough. I'm open to trying to provide relief as much as we can. I just don't think $12 is enough. I understand, the copay and all that, but that's not enough. It may provide a small dent to someone to maybe buy some milk and bread, but it's not a huge dent in the stimulus checks. We have no idea when they will actually receive those. How many calls have the utility department received within the last couple weeks? Do we know in regards to maybe their bill or trying to get it a forbearance on it?
I think Brandy is on the call. I think she's on the call. At least I saw her on the list. Brandy, are you there?
Randy,
Well-
could you raise your hand?
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, I'd have to ask. I thought Brandy might have been on the call, but Mike, I think, is checking. So
The reason I'm asking, because if someone lost their job, which I know a couple people that have lost their job, maybe we can consider something like we're considering for the businesses and maybe some type of forbearance, to push it back a little while to give them a couple months to maybe find another job. Is that something we can also look into? I feel that would probably have a lasting effect rather than 20%.
Well, to your point, regardless of whether we do this or don't do it, we're going to have some measure of people that it doesn't matter if they've lost their job and they only have enough money to, buy food and do minimal things. This isn't going to, be a super amount of help to them. And we're going to still have the same issues we've had in the past when somebody, comes back, gets reemployed and gets, asked for some, relief on their bill that we do individual workouts on. Again, the notion is trying to tell the community that, we're trying to help the overall community as best we can, but we're also being mindful that there's expenses that continue to go for the water and sewer utility to operate and to provide, this level of service that the rest of the community expects. Charles?
Yeah, and we had some of that conversation in the previous meeting where certainly staff is going to work with individuals. Right now, we're not shutting off anyone's water because of the reality of the situation, but there's still an expense for that. And just my concern, if we waive it, obviously we have bonds, we borrow money, and if we just waive things, and that means when we have our future rate study, it just means that most likely we're going to have to increase the rates for those that are paying or will continue to pay. So it's shifting the burden one way or another, where at least to me, the 20%, whether it's $12 or $20 or $30, it's some savings to everyone equally. So Jessica, I do agree that staff has to be mindful that we had a 400% increase in people not paying their bills, but we're not shutting off water, which I think is important. And we're going to try to work with all those people. And I think staff understands that. And I completely agree with you. Whether that means we have 2 years to pay us back or 3 years to pay us back or whatever we can do in that way to help a lot of people. But I kind of just feel like we need to be on somewhat of a level playing field and then go to the individual's need. Are some of my concerns, but I agree staff has to do that. Absolutely. So I agree with your overall point.
Kevin,
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with Jessica with the 2% not necessarily making a dent for someone. I personally would rather us, look at when we do come out of this, extending the amount of time we're giving individuals for repayment. So in essence, spreading out and lowering the payment that they would have to pay back over a longer period of time. I mean, most that can't make a payment aren't making a payment now, so they're on forbearance now. And I think that would help to extend the help further on rather than a $12 bump for 2 months.
Michael, you had a comment?
Yes, sir. Just along the lines of what Commissioner Reed was just saying, we've had 50 or 100 calls, mostly asking for payment plans. As of it is right now, we're not charging delinquent fees or late fees, and we're just encouraging people to pay what they can. They're not formal payment plans, but just asking people to pay what they can. And then when we get through the crisis, then we can develop more formal payment plans for them, like we would do any customer even before the crisis. So.
Chris, you wanted to make a comment? I saw your hand moving to the mic.
Well, I was gonna do the raise hand thing, but I didn't. No, I agree with what Michael was just saying, and working with the people that need help. And again, it's what I said with the last one. I don't know that we need a blanket reduction, because like Commissioner Davis said, not everyone is experiencing loss, but there are many that are. Just as a point of reference, Duke Energy sent an email to Stetson saying that they are planning on giving all residential customers a almost 21%, and then commercial 20 to 45%, depending on the amount of energy they're using. One-time reduction on the month of May billing statement. So that's what Duke's doing.
Other comments? Michael, anything you wish to add as we try to wrap this part up?
No, sir. If there's a consensus, we can certainly move forward with the 20% reduction over 2 months. I think that's what I heard support for. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But we are already working with everybody on payment plans. Like I said, anybody calling in, we're just down, pay what you can. And when we get through the crisis and whatever balance they have left, then we formalize that over a period of however long it takes them to pay that off. But I'm not quite sure on the first part, Mr. Mayor, on the whether or not you were wanting to do the discount or not.
What was that? I wanted to what?
I'm not sure if I'm right about whether or not there's consensus on doing the discount. I think I heard yes, but I'm not positive.
I didn't hear.
I don't think there was consensus, but
Okay.
I think that you can look into, from what I'm hearing, maybe look into helping those 300 or whoever calls in and let them know, pay what you can. If you need a couple months to pay it, we're not turning anyone off. Just reiterating that we're not turning you off at this time, and just maybe not putting it out there.
We already are doing that.
So just making sure that we have the same verbiage for all the callers, because no one is getting turned off, and I think we should just go from there at this point.
Sure.
The only thing I would say to that, to what several of you said, some people just aren't going to call. And, and so to the notion of trying to treat everybody equally, if people people don't inquire and they, you know, they make a decision to do one thing rather than another. I mean, I'm not, you know, 20%
feel like-
doesn't have to be. I mean, it could be a different percentage in my mind. I'm just trying not to, you know, bankrupt the system. Charles?
Yeah, I mean, the same thought that went into the fish or the airport or the chamber. You know, there's people that are going to try to be responsible and pay their bills regardless of what they have to do to make that happen. And to say that we should only spend these funds or take these funds out to only go to those people that don't pay anything or ask for help, to me is a bit uneven, because there's tons of restaurants downtown and small businesses that are absolutely affected by this. But whether it's personal income, whether it's borrowing money, whether it's using credit card checks, whatever it is, they still have a burden. And so some break. If there's a commercial bill, it may be $500. That's $100 off of a small business person's bill. And all those others that can't pay it, it's going to be 20% less and 20% less. So even if it's someone that can't pay their bill, it's going to be $24 less if it's $60 that they have to come with 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road to pay to keep our system solvent. So to me, I'm strongly in favor of this because it helps everyone equally, and we're looking out for that other group of people already. So this is one opportunity to be equal to businesses, to individuals that will continue to pay in the system, because if 300 people called in, that obviously means that, you know, Michael, what do we have? 30,000 people in the system? Is that somewhat accurate?
We have 21,409 accounts.
Okay, so obviously almost 21,000 people are continuing to pay their bills, but are clearly struggling with the increase in unemployment. So I just think it's a way to reach out to say, public, everyone is going to get some savings, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're a business owner, whether you're not, and affects everyone equally. And that's just what that's why I was strongly in support of this. But, you know, just, you know, so hopefully someone else sees the benefit in that, but that's where I'm at.
I guess in terms of consensus, there are two people that have clearly said they're in favor of the 20%. I mean, is there a third one? So we've at least got a majority to go forward. Kevin, I've seen your body language, but go ahead. Did you want to make comment, or I mean, you still stick to your earlier position of wanting to defer rather than do something up front?
At this point, I would prefer to defer. You know, there's still so much uncertainty out there, and we don't know if this ends in 2 months, 3 months, or what the recovery time is. So I'm just hesitant to put that out now and then not be able to do something else later. So that's just where I stand.
Well, I don't think we're prohibited from doing something later that just because we do something now. Just look at the meeting numbers. The guidance kept changing. So, you know, we have the power to extend that another month or you know, increase it in the future. Chris, where are you on this?
Well, I guess I'm not opposed if the majority wants to do that. I was leaning more towards, you know, helping those who need it, and who, I guess to your comment of not everyone's going to reach out if they need it. I mean, I guess there's something almost biblical about that. Help those that help themselves, type of thing. But I'm not going to be the deterrent on it. But you know, like I said, I think there's plenty of people who are still in a place to pay their bills. I guess my main concern is just on the other side of this making up the difference.
Well, and I think with some people, quite frankly, and Brandy kind of intimated this, I won't put words in her mouth, but there will also be some people that have made a choice. Well, we'll ask the city to let us ride for a month or two free. That way we can pay we can do something we want to do, rather than us give up cable, for example. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so that's why I like the notion of the fairness. Jessica? Or equality, I guess.
I think I expressed my stand on it, but you know, if the majority is for the 20%, you know, I just, you know, as Commissioner Reed said, I just don't want to tie our hands and someone, you know, someone that really needs the help won't get the help, but we'll see. So much uncertainty, as he stated, and I agree with that.
I'm still not, I mean, the last two
I'll go.
said that, well, I mean, what I heard both Jessica and Chris say, they go along with the majority, but the majority right now that said 20% is 2. So I'm not quite sure that, you know.
Did Brandy ever
where-
add her comment? Did anyone find her?
I'm sorry, what?
I think someone was looking for Brandy earlier or telling her to
Oh,
get-
no, I was, but it was the information that I gave you. You know, we've gotten, you know, 50 to 100 calls, and the information is really asking for payment plans more than anything. And I think some are now asking, is it going to be, are you going to allow us to defer in May as well? So I think now people are asking beyond, you know, because right now the forbearance period has been through April 30th. And so now people are looking, you know, to the end of May. But we are anybody who calls in and making sure that, you know, they understand we're not shutting them off, you know, that they're not being charged the late fee or delinquent fee, and we're just asking pay what they can.
So I know it's a small percentage, but out of those 300 that have called, our customers are asking for a full pushback of their bill, not a discount, right?
They're asking for payment plans at this point, from what Brandy was telling me.
So
Let me,
percent may not be enough is what you're getting from the customers.
I don't know that. They're saying that they want payment plans. So I assume that means that, you know, if we give them a little bit more time to pay, they can pay it.
let me make a suggestion at this point, because all Brandy said to me was there were 300, and I didn't drill down to when I talked to her to, well, how many want this, how many want that, or any of that. To move this along, would it be acceptable to the commission that staff draft an emergency ordinance, and at the next meeting, Michael makes sure that Brandy can give us, you know, the latest and greatest, most up-to-date information on how many, you know, people are in what situation, what they're requesting, and what we're doing. I mean, we are in some respects in the, you know, kind of the beginning of some of this, and people are reading what other communities are doing too. So in any event, is that acceptable to? I mean, we can, if it's emergency ordinance and we can change the percentage there and right. I mean, so on and so forth. When we don't have to adopt the ordinance. So
That is correct.
okay, Chris.
Yeah, with the risk of sounding crass or whatever, I mean, it's just something to remember. We're not talking about waiving a permit fee or a tax. This is the fee for purchasing an actual commodity, not unlike going to the grocery store and getting a cart full of groceries. You still have to pay for what you're using. So I'm all for helping people that are having a hard time, and it sounds like we're already doing so in the way of not shutting off water if they're delinquent, not giving the late fees, and helping them with a payment plan. I guess, I don't know, that's the difficulty I'm having, is that this isn't paying for a service. This is paying for an actual quantity of something.
Absolutely agree. But the flip side is that there's a lot of that commodity that over the years we've forgiven for people who can't afford and so on and so forth. So it's just a matter of, in my mind, of recognizing that we're in extremely rare circumstances and that we're trying to reach out and help as many people as we can without having to, as Charles has so eloquently said, being fair to everybody and treating everybody equally in that regard. So, but I'll get off, that. I mean, at this point, I don't, Michael, I don't think we have any super clear, consensus on this. And so, at this point, I would say that unless somebody wants to make a motion at this point to direct staff to do something, we can always consider it at the next meeting if there's the numbers change or whatever. The problem is that based on what Darren has said, it's got to be done by an emergency ordinance. So, we can't just turn on the system tomorrow. If the next day we adopt the ordinance, we've got lead time and all of that sort of thing. And
yeah, and I think for right now, people would probably be relieved if they knew that we weren't turning water off through the end of May. I think that's the bigger question. There are obviously some that are asking for, waivers of the bill, but I think right now, most people are just focused on, paying what they can and hoping that, we'll extend the April 30th, deadline out for, payment to, at the end of May. So.
Okay, well, I mean, again, we can talk about it at a future meeting. So I seeing no direction, we'll move on from it, I guess. For purposes of the record, the note that Greg handed to me is that there were 2 people that called in on 9 agenda items, but we let them know that we would get back to them because they didn't appear, they didn't send anything. It was just apparently a phone call. They're on the virtual meeting. Okay. All right. Well, they're apparently on the virtual meeting. So, Greg, what did you let them know? I mean, did you let them know anything, or are they still there?
They are still there. They come through.
Well, procedurally, I mean, they need to, on the policy, to send an email or send us written comment, and no one's gotten anything in writing tonight, have they? Folks that called in, I guess all we can say is please send your petitions and requests to clerk at deland.org, and staff will get back to you on those comments. We will now move to commission. We'll start with Commissioner Cloudman. First of all, congratulations on your designation as a home rule hero.
Thank you. Well, it's been an interesting time, I'm sure, for all of us. And the Rotary Club of Downtown DeLand has ventured into doing just what we're doing tonight, using Zoom to hold our meetings. We had a practice meeting last week, and then I held our board meeting Friday morning on Zoom as well. I think it's a great tool, especially being able to see other faces, though I haven't been able to see everyone's face on this tonight. Getting some of that personal touch back that we were missing, as far as at least Rotary is concerned. Been having all sorts of meetings now online, whether it's the River to Sea TPO, the Florida League of Cities Pension Trust Fund, but it's using other platforms where you're only hearing voices, and it's a little different, and everyone's experiencing some of the same kind of technical difficulties getting through these meetings and trying to work it out. But it'll be interesting to see on the other side, some of these meetings where I have to travel to, say, Orlando for a 1 or 2 hour meeting, if we don't just start doing these remotely on a regular basis instead of everyone traveling in from all over Central Florida. We'll see.
Just as a follow-up to that, before the meeting started, I was telling Greg, I was asking him, how you handle Zoom conferencing, because right now we're paying on a month-by-month basis. And I said, you might find that we need to include this in our budget in the future, because coming out of this, we may find it to be convenient for a variety of different reasons. So point's well taken. If there's nothing further, Charles?
Yeah, I just want to say great job on your use of technology, Bob. And, I hope everyone continues to be safe, and I appreciate the work that staff is doing. And, I think it's good that we're looking for ways to, just like the stimulus package, the federal government's looking at, to look at various ways in the city, and just continue staff to strive to be, creative and as fair as possible, because there's need comes in many different forms. But thanks, Bob, for handling this very well, and look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you. And one follow-up to what you said is that I've said this to a lot of people recently, and including something I was going to mention. Chris and I were on a Zoom conference with the staff of Stetson Baptist Church, because they're doing video conferencing and then putting it on their Facebook page as a way to get information to their congregation. But the point I wanted to make is that there's no such thing in my mind as a bad idea. There may just be some ideas we're not going to do that aren't practical or don't work. And I've said to any number of people, if you think about the curbside pickup, the neighborhoods, Neighbors on Wheels program, that there's several things that have been instituted around town that were as a result, or we've done as a result of ideas or conversations that we've had with people. And so to the commission as a whole, and to as you encounter people and talk to them, if there's a better idea or something we can do or try to do, I think we as a government are very open to helping everyone, and those ideas need to come forward, and we'll, staff will kick them around, or the commission will kick them around, and some will, bear fruit and some won't. So thank you for saying that, Charles. Anything else?
No, not at this time. Thanks.
Okay. Jessica?
I would agree that the meeting tonight went very well. I think it went much better than our practice. It is nice to see everyone, but I know that we agreed to do some of the pictures because of the audio. So I think that did help with the audio and being able to hear everyone. Plus, with the salons being closed, you do not want to see me right now. But thank you to staff for making this run smoothly. It was actually a pretty good call, and it's given us a lot to think about, and maybe, like they said, moving forward. Thank you to Michael for helping the neighborhood center and helping to solve their issue with food. Just stepping in to help them in their time of need. I do know a couple people that I sent that way, so thank you for doing that. I wanted to ask, are there any updates on Advent Health and their outside tents? Have they been used? Is it working? Because I know there's an issue with supplies around the country.
Sure. Well, Lorenzo Brown and I have a weekly conference call, and he basically described the situation as working just fine. They do have contingency plans, as do the rest of the hospitals in the Advent system. Should they need to ramp up, mobile field hospitals or whatever. They have a number of buildings on campus that are not within the four walls of the hospital. And they have some other community options like with Stetson, and I even offer the State Board Center. So, Lorenzo and his staff are very keenly aware of what needs to happen should they need to ramp up, and they do have plans in place to handle that. But he did not on last week's call indicate to me that they're having any issues. So I'll again each week when he gives me feedback on how things are going, I'll make sure I pass that along to you.
Okay, thank you. Last question. With our ribbon cuttings and things that are coming up, I know we have one plan for the Dr. Joyce Cusack Resource Center for May 9th. How much time do we need prior to those ribbon cuttings to put out a notice to maybe push it back if necessary? Is that something we need to look at now, or we have time?
I would say that, and plus you have the bridge opening as well, that's May 16th, if I recall. I think you need to give people at least like a week, just to get the word out. I think most people would expect, that there will be a delay in the ribbon cutting on both of those facilities. Certainly the neighborhood center is planned for that. And, we, can easily just send out the word to everybody that we had previously given a save the date notice to on both of those ribbon cuttings.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kevin?
Just everyone continue to stay safe, and look forward to seeing everyone in person one of these days.
Just a couple additional things. The mayors of Volusia County are having a weekly Zoom conference as well to talk about different things that the different cities are doing, and it's somewhat supplementary to what the managers are doing. I mean, last week, Chairman Kelly joined us, and I think he will probably be joining those calls in the future. I mentioned Stetson Baptist. So with that, this virtual meeting is about to be adjourned. To those two citizens that apparently were on virtually, one thing, it's when you scroll across, it's a little bit difficult to pick those up, and that's my fault, but I apologize. But please, as I said, be patient at the beginning. It's a learning process, and please do email your concerns to clerk at theland.org. With that, this